So now we have created the contact list as required and sent it back to the business department. And then later they then call us and said, you know what, it was a great report, but they don't want, it's not as clean as they expected. And they then said we have to remove all null values so that they don't have to do any data cleansing. So although we have a list that contains all customer information, not every customer has a full record. For example, we can see here that Betty Williams, there is no information about city or country. And there are also, and this is not the only record with null value. So the task at hand right now is to clean up this file that we previously created, so that we will then have a second list where all null values are removed. So let's go back to Visual Studio and see how we can achieve this. So back in Visual Studio, we have already saved the file, so I will just comment this out. We don't need any of this anymore because the file is already created. So just let me comment it out. So the first thing we have to do right now is to read this file that we previously saved. We already know how to read a file, so I will call this customer row customer list. Let's call it row customer list equal the Spark session dot the read method. Now we have our data frame reader. From the data frame reader, we can call any method. Previously, we used the format and the load option. Here, we used the format and then the load option and specified some option that the read method then take. What we are going to do now, because we already know that the file we saved is a real comma separated file, we can use the built-in method to read CSV files. So we read a CSV file and just pass in the name of the file, so the path, and for now that's all necessary to read the file. So let's take a look. Row customer list dot show. Let's take a look at the file first row. I'm going to build it and it's time to run it. Okay, now we can see that we successfully read the file, and but there's one thing you will notice here. We know that the first name, last name, and everything are header information, but right now you can see that they have been considered rows to be real records. So we need to tell Apache Spark that this row is a header. That's the first row of the file, is the header. We have two options. We can use the option method as you saw previously. So when we are reading file, we can use the header option to tell Apache Spark that the first row in the file is the header. But when we are writing file, we instruct Apache Spark to write the header to the file so that the result will also have the name in it. That's why when we are writing information, we specify the header option. Otherwise, we will have a file without header. But when we are reading file back that have header in it, then we have to specify the option, the header option. So we can do something like this: header, and then we say yes, there's an header available. Let's build it again. Yeah, this was not yet. Great. Now we can see that the first row, that's the header information, are not considered as a real record, but as what it is, and header. So let's move on now and deal with the null values. So the next thing we will do before we really do that, till now we are passing every option to configure our data frame reader or writer. We are passing every single option, but there's also the possibility to use a dictionary so that we can put our option in one place and reuse it. That's why I will create a dictionary here called CSV options, and it will be, what is that, dot option. It's a dictionary of strings, so CSV options. So now we need a dictionary, so new dictionary string, and the first thing we need is a header. Yes, it is an header. Cool. And here you will realize that the option method has multiple overload, and when we use a dictionary of strings, what we are doing, we are using an overload of the option method that takes in strings and strings. Here, this is what is then being applied. Till now, we are using this one where we pass in the key and then we say true, but we can also pass true as a string. So we will use that. Now we have our data frame ready, and the header is true and everything is fine. So let's go over and deal with null values, row customer list. So the data frame has a method called NA that returns a data frame for working with missing data. So what this means is that the data frame that is returned by this method has additional method available, like that can help us deal with missing values like null, or even completely not existent value like not a record, none, or something like that. So if you now you can see what we will get from the data frame and our functions. There's a method here called dropped, and the drop method will drop all rows containing null values. The drop method has multiple overload to it, and before we jump into the code, let me show you first how the drop method really worked.